Hey guys, have you ever felt like, I learn all this stuff and I'm understanding, and there's other people out there who've been betrayed and hurt or have addiction, but they just don't get it. I'm different. What I'm going through is different.
Okay, guys, welcome to the next episode. We're really glad to have you guys here, and we're going to lead this episode off with a review. Okay, this says, thank you. Your podcast was referred to me by a family member. I've listened to all the episodes, some episodes several times. I've learned so much. In my early listening, I was so relieved to learn that there is a name for my struggles and that I'm not crazy. Validation. Throughout my listening, I learn more and more, but I realize I'm stuck being a victim and don't have the knowledge or skill to get out of it. I keep listening, but don't feel empowered to move forward. I don't understand boundaries versus ultimatums. I have been in this for 37 years. I have lost myself to keep the marriage. I want to be healthy so I can make healthy decisions. The more I learn about betrayal trauma, the more helpless I feel. I am proud of you, Ashlyn and Kobe, and really wish I lived closer so I could have Brennan as my therapist. And that's it.
Okay, so there was a question in there, and I really appreciate her review. That was really nice. But there was a question in there of, the more I learn, the more hopeless I feel almost, the more stuck that I'm getting. And so where do you go from there? A couple of things. There are tools. There's tools that you can implement into your life, and we can't get to all the tools here on the podcast, and that's why we have other things like Patreon, and we just developed an amazing course that we're going to promote more and more that has a lot of those tools in it. So if you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always gotten. So you've got to implement some hard things into your recovery and make some changes. You'll shift when you shift your thinking. So I heard some thinking in there that I can't get out of my victim. If you believe that, then that's what you're going to get. Believe that you can get out of your victim role. So then you'll look at how and what are some things that you can do to get out of that victim role, and you'll start to implement those things into your life. So continue to educate yourself. Make just a small checklist of some tools that you can start to practice. And don't eat an elephant all at once. Just to do one thing at a time, and just hang on to hope.
Yeah.
So.
And as a reminder, I got this a lot this week of people saying, "I love what you're doing, but we can't have what you've done because we live in a rural area." And my reminder is, guys, everything's online.
Yes.
You can virtually do so many things. You can even call into a 12-step group if you don't even have one by you.
Well, so this plays right into our topic for the day that we're going to talk about, which is I'm different because of my situation. Things can't change. I'm stuck. And the reality is I've seen people in all kinds of situations find real hope, find real recovery. So.
Okay, before we start,
Yeah.
I do want to talk about something because I got three questions that were all about the same thing this week, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to share this week because it's our 101st podcast episode, and I think most of you guys know we started out pretty simple. We were on an ironing board talking into a curtain. We didn't know what we were doing. I actually didn't really know Brandon.
Yeah, not at all.
We
really.
kind of met
Yeah.
right before we did the podcast.
Yeah, we stuck the microphone up. And, yeah.
Yeah, and now I consider Brandon to be one of my best friends. Obviously, we're having these really deep discussions every week. So it's kind of crazy. But these questions that were asked was, how do you guys come up with topics? Do you have a schedule that you're working off of? Do you have an outline that you follow within the podcast? Talking points, who's going to say what, that sort of thing.
Well, what's awesome is we've really tried to emulate what we preach. So there's a reason why we don't edit, because we want to be authentic. We want to show you kind of our blemishes or whatever. But one of the areas that we do this is we believe in intuition, and we believe in flowing and in being who you are. And so every week we come together and we're like, man, what's going on in your world this week? What does our audience need to hear and feel? And we try to feel that. We don't have it scheduled out week to week, months in advance. to come up with these topics. We try to really feel the energy in the air
Yeah.
for what everybody needs, and so we hope that as we flow with that you'll get what you need from us
Yeah. Well,
week to week.
and the cool thing is, one of the gals that asked this question said, I feel like, some weeks I'm struggling with this question and I just need the answers, and it comes through your podcast.
Yeah.
Like, how is that? It's like an answer to my prayers, and that's where I think you're right on, Brandon. Like,
Right.
we're going with these gut feelings. We're being led
Yeah.
to these topics.
There's these things in our heads that we know, but we don't know how we know them. So we know that we start speaking, we start saying this wisdom, but we don't know where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that we're channeling truth and truth that people need. And so as we talk and we break these things down, I think that there's some divine inspiration there, and we're just trying to be open to that, to help as many people as we can.
Yeah, that's why when you message me and say, what episode did you say this? I say, I have no idea. Because I don't remember what I said 10 minutes ago.
But the truth of that is we never go back, and I don't ever go back and listen to episodes of the podcast. Do you?
I do, just to hear your voice.
Oh my God.
Because it's not good enough the first time around, right? But we don't do that. It's like I listen to it only to the extent of adding the intro to the thing and then posting it.
We're moving forward.
We are moving forward, and
It's not to say that it's bad to review the content of
No.
the podcast or anything like that.
no, for sure. But as much as we want to go with their gut when we do this, we want to just go with their gut and then keep going with their gut, and that means moving forward with the next topics. And there's oftentimes, I guess the distinction I would draw here is that by part of going with our gut is the work that we did ourselves to become resilient to the shame that surrounded being the once addicted and the once betrayed. And having removed those lenses of shame allows us to, like you talked about, channel truth. And sometimes that's just speaking what our experience was without the lens of
getting
shame,
away.
without the emotions that are normally associated with the shame of that.
Very true.
And that's, I only identify that because, one, it's possible. I have my hand on my head. This is my thinking pose, I guess. I want you guys to understand that it is possible for all of you listening to get to that place where you can experience life, you can reflect on what you've been through without the feeling of shame, without the lenses of shame.
Well, what you're saying, Kobe, is when you know yourself, you know who you are, you trust yourself, you love yourself. When we take a topic and we roll with it, there's vulnerability to that because we don't have it all mapped out with every single bullet point. We're breaking it down and we're discussing it as we go, and I think that really speaks to how recovery is and how life is when you step into things and then you kind of feel it out and you see how things end up. There's a vulnerability to that. I was watching Tony Robbins' Netflix special thing, and at one part of it, so he does all these interventions that he gets really deep with people, and they're interviewing him, and he says, "Look, I don't know what's going to happen out there. I don't have a safety net. Like somebody could throw a topic out there that's really jarring and crazy or whatever. I don't have a safety net. I can't because I have to be in the moment with that person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be so scripted and but what you hear in that and why so many people respond to him is because he has an ability to be in the moment and be vulnerable with himself and with other people, and that's vulnerability, and so that's what we try to do here on our episodes is just we take these topics and we explore it and we get vulnerable with what we think about it, and that's what we do. So
That's very well
Which
said.
means sometimes we miss things, right? So
absolutely.
that's part of the process.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're okay, and I'll be the first one in line to say this. Like, I don't have all the answers. I'm not the expert. I can only speak to my story and what I've experienced thus far, and so I will take missteps. I will.
But here's a challenge to our audience. is there an area in your life where you don't know what the outcome's going to be, but you feel like you need to step into it? Then try it, do it. You might fail, you might succeed, but try to just flow. Try to flow. Step past that fear and just flow into who you are with that thing. So it might be speaking in public, asking a person on a date. It could be whatever, right? But just step into it. So
it's a brilliant process, and it's a creative process,
right?
Which is really neat. And I will say this, and I'll be done. Ashley always gives me the look like, shut up.
Can you feel that through the podcast?
Yeah. I'm getting the eyes.
Please be quiet.
Yeah. It is all of this that you hear is totally beyond me. It's totally beyond who I ever was, and that ability to do what's beyond me is not me. It is divine. It is divine, and it's not.
Oh.
Anyways.
Okay, on to the topic.
Yes.
Okay, so the topic is uniqueness. It's, this thinking or this feeling of, I can't heal, I can't change. They don't understand. They don't understand what I'm actually going through.
God won't forgive me, but He will forgive everyone else.
He'll forgive everybody else, but not me. I'm different. So this is a form of denial, kind of. So we are all unique. That's true, correct? Right. So it's denial when you're using it to not operate in reality. And here's a reality. There's always hope. There's always moving forward. You can always change. Change is always a possibility. So when you use uniqueness to say, no, I'm not going to do the work. I'm not going to do these hard things. I'm not going to face difficulty here because I'm hopeless. I'm stuck. I'm unique. Then you're stuck in denial.
Okay, can it also go the other way and say, I'm not like them. I am unique. I'm up here.
Absolutely. And so what does that do? How does that justify not working your recovery?
Do you want me to tell you exactly how that works for me? Because I was that dude.
I'm better than?
Yeah, I very, 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 I went to 12-step 3 different times. The very first time I went, I walked in and I was so uncomfortable. I was so in shame, and I started listening to people just share really wild stories, and they were different than mine, and some of them were drastically different than mine, and that's what made me think, I'm so not in that same place. I'm really different, and I'm not as bad, and I'm not as extreme as this story or that one or whatever the case was. And that simply just gave me license and title to say, I'm good, I'm okay, so I don't need to go to the lengths that they need to go to in order to not act out or quote unquote, I really viewed going to 12-step as like penance. Like this is like a prescribed
you're using
thing.
two forms of denial there. There's uniqueness, and there's also comparison, which is that, look, they're them and I'm different than them. So because I'm different, I'm not, as bad as them.
Totally.
So
here's a question, and this actually, it'll be interesting to hear what everybody says, but what I would like to do is to have each of us share various statements from people with whom we've worked on how they are unique.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go first.
So
I hear it all the time. So
yeah, but I think this is really cool because I think between the three of us we'll probably hit a lot of the things, not all of them, but a lot of the thoughts of I'm different. So one for me that I always held.
Can I just give a little caveat before we jump in here?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is going to feel maybe a little invalidating to the audience when we say these things, because we are saying, if we say one that you relate to, you might think, okay, but you don't get it. You don't get how I'm feeling. So the one thing that we're talking about our podcast and what we do, we don't shy away from truth that makes you uncomfortable. So if it's truth, it's truth. It doesn't mean that we don't understand that you're stuck and you're hopeless for a reason, that's valid and it's real for you. We understand that. Right.
Well, and most of these things, Kobe and I had to have truth spoken to us, right? So it's not like we're...
Truth hits you
We've had it too.
Yeah, slaps you in the face, and it's like,
We're
wow.
right there with you.
Yeah. So
Unique life experiences that have led to betrayal and led to addiction does not mean that your own path is going to be solely and entirely unique to anybody else's. Because the steps to heal from addiction and from the shame of addiction, or from betrayal and the shame of betrayal, is fairly similar. It's a road that most people have to travel, right?
Right.
Okay. So I'm not worthy. Like, I'm the exception to the rule.
God's gonna love everybody but you.
He's gonna forgive everybody but me.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm and if there was a forgive 70 times 7, right? I'm a Christian.
You're beyond that.
Yes, I'm the last one in line to be forgiven, if I'm forgiven at all. Because I crossed so many lines.
That is really egotistical.
I know, right?
Can you hear it? Right?
Wow.
It's shame based.
No,
but it's-
actually.
Yeah. You don't hear the egotisticalness to it? Like, why are you, like, you're egocentric in that. It's like the world revolves around me. God's gonna love everybody else.
But I'm
Else.
different than
But me,
every earth
yeah,
mover.
but me, I'm different, right? You see that?
I have a blank look on my face for those of you who are listening. Like, wow,
Well, because you believed this for so long.
It feels
Maybe
like it's
that's
truth.
why.
I mean, that was the truth that rehearsed in my head. That was what Spike grabbed onto and just beat me with.
Yeah.
Repeatedly, right? That's really interesting to hear that. Okay.
Okay.
So other ones, I have all of the relapses over the years are like rocks on my head, and they're just piling up, and so that's more evidence of I'm the exception to this.
Because you've had so many.
Yeah, because I've had so
Over and
many.
over
Exactly, they just compounded, and it's all evidence that I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I can't heal.
You know, if you've had a history of relapsing, and then telling yourself, I'm never doing that again, and then you do it again, and then tell yourself never do it again, and you do it again, you start to believe that, other people can get recovery, but not me.
Yeah.
Because I've obviously proven to myself that I can't.
Mm-hmm.
And why is that uniqueness? Unique because the truth is that I've worked with so many guys who have been in that cycle over and over and over and over again, and then all of a sudden they really find recovery.
Yeah.
And so I do believe that you can.
Yeah.
And so it's not true that other people can find recovery and you can't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Ash, what about you? What kind of statements have you heard?
Mine are more comparison, I would say, than uniqueness. But I hear a lot of the same that we've already mentioned.
Okay. What are some common ones for the betrayed though? Things like nobody really understands what it's like to be in a relationship with him, right? Nobody can really understand the types of manipulation that are going on because like it's so subtle and so tricky. Like I can feel it, I know it, but he's so good that I can't break out of it. I'm stuck in it. I can't really be happy again now that I've found this out, because what's happened to me is different than everybody else. So other things are like, I know I'm not supposed to monitor and hover over his recovery, but for us that's actually a good thing.
Oh my gosh, I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Do you?
I actually do, or the check-in. I know we're not supposed to do trigger check-ins or stuff, but for us it works.
Yeah, right.
It's building trust, and I'm like, okay.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that I think that's common. That for us these unhealthy behaviors actually are good, and so
I will say this: as you were sharing that, I remember it triggered memories and thoughts that I had of the way that Ashlyn treats me is so bad that I'm never going to be able to heal.
Oh,
it's different, right?
Such a common one is the way my spouse is so difficult that nobody really understands.
Yeah.
You know how many people think that, but feel completely alone in that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Well, and I think for me, I think we were more like we're in that unique place. Our marriage is so different and it's so hard because we weren't reaching out to anyone. We
Right.
weren't finding education and we were so isolated that it felt very much like that.
Right.
And so I think for me, I hear a lot of these things coming from people who are just reaching out, right? Like they're just
Right.
starting. I'm not hearing it from people who are really working recovery because they've moved past that. I think we all kind of step into this
Yes.
uniqueness
Right.
in the beginnings.
Absolutely. It's embrace uniqueness because uniqueness is awesome, but just don't use uniqueness to stay hopeless and stay stuck.
Oh,
So
that's interesting.
can I give you just some ones I hear, and they can be so specific. You can find little unique things to use for that denial. You mentioned earlier I live in a small town, so I don't have any resources, so I'm stuck. Things can't change. Nobody has the mom that I have, the mom that I had to deal with. I had childhood abuse, and because of that abuse, my trauma is so bad that I'm stuck. I can't change. I have good reason to stay stuck. We could go on and on with every little thing. I was the middle child that never got any attention, so therefore I'm unique. So that's why I'm stuck. And
Well, and I hear it sometimes in messages we get of like, when are you going to interview other couples on the podcast? Because I haven't heard my specific story yet, and I want to hear that. And I know it's not Ashton and Kobe, so that's tricky for me too because you're never going to hear your story. Like it's your story.
It's unique,
Yeah.
right? But there's commonalities throughout recovery and in the process of it. Every relationship, every marriage is creating its own unique thing. Don't shit on marriage. So marriage is what it is between those two people. It's unique. But the difference, and what we're really talking about again, is saying because it's unique, therefore I can't find happiness, and that's not true.
Okay.
So
That's where the spike comes in.
absolutely,
Keeps us stuck.
yes.
Okay, so let's say we're coming in and listening. We're staying with us, Brandon. We've listened this far.
Okay.
We're really uncomfortable. Now what?
Okay. So one of the first things to do is if you're connecting to what we're saying, if you're like, yeah, I definitely have used uniqueness here to stay stuck, try shifting that stinking thinking. So get out of it. So if you're saying, well, I can't change because, or we're too old to change, or we're too whatever, try shifting it. I was talking to a guy recently who was saying how unique he was, and he was single and he was wanting to get in a relationship, and he was saying, well, I'll never find the right person for me because I just can't. And I said, what if you why don't you live as if you will? Why don't you believe that the right person is out there and I'll find her, right? And so he thought, well, I can actually think that. So if you live in a small town and you say, I can never get in recovery because I'm in a small town, shift it. I know I can get in recovery even in a small town, right? I know I can get in recovery even if I'm 65 years old. I know that I'm not unique in my addiction. If I know that I can get in recovery because my acting out is different than those guys, and I can absolutely go work my recovery too, right? Do you see the difference in thinking?
Yeah.
Not, well, I don't need to work my recovery because I'm unique.
Yeah. So one thing that to go off of what you're saying that I love that Kobe kind of got us going. I don't even remember earlier on in recovery was like finding the truth, right? So finding that true narrative.
Right.
That's the really uncomfortable stuff we've been saying, right?
Uh-huh.
Finding that truth and then fact checking or shifting
Yes.
it, right?
Yes.
And saying, okay, so this is what I've been telling myself. Instead of trying to ignore it and to push it down and using it for denial and for all these things, I'm going to just accept that this is the crap I've been telling myself.
Yes.
Okay? Now I'm going to shift it,
Yes.
right? So I do believe you can't just make the mind shift without acknowledging I've been telling myself a lot.
Accept
of
your
lies.
ego, see your ego, love your ego. It's there to protect you, but you don't have to keep going along with it. I love the way you put that, Ashton. That is the step out of denial.
Yeah.
Fact check it, get into reality, love yourself and love your ego and all that, But then once you can fact check it, once you can recognize the defensiveness, the denial, then you can start to shift your thinking.
Yeah.
So
That's a great skill set. That's a great skill set to have. And the best way to start that, this is a really interesting thing. The best way to start being mindful of that narrative in effort to, as you talked about, Ashlyn, to make the shift and to fact check it, reality check it, is to begin accounting every night. When you can do this in a journal, you can share this with a Shane partner or a sponsor. How many times did I have this thought cross my mind throughout the day? That I'm unique and that therefore, I'm the exception to the rule. And once you start accounting for that at the end of the day, and you do that consistently over time, then it will be easier for you to be mindful of that in the moment or shortly after that instance. So you can say, oh wait, that actually is not me. That's
so we're not just
Spike.
trying to find the negative. We're doing something with it.
Yes, we're pouring our energy into this mindfulness pursuit of that specific narrative that's not us, and saying, oh wait, no, actually that is Spike, that's not me. I'm going to dismiss that, right? And then the more consistent you're retrospectively identifying it, the easier over time you'll get to real-time mindful, where you can just, the thought crosses your mind, comes in one ear, and you recognize it as Spike, and then you just dismiss it, and it goes out the other ear. So it doesn't sit there in your head bouncing around.
right.
And that would be the way to, at least for me, that has worked to start managing those thoughts. So guys, thanks for being here. Love to have you rate and review the podcast. That helps other people to find who we are, what we do, and just glad that you're here.
Yep. See you guys.
Bye-bye.